Yeah, this hearing is still going on. It has been going on for about 2 hours now. You talk about graphic, you talk about disturbing. I've been a reporter now for almost 20 years. I've seen and I've heard an awful lot of things, but to hear somebody describe in detail how he and his friends tortured a woman and then killed her, honestly, it's the most disturbing thing I've ever heard.
And more disturbing details. After she was stabbed to death, police say her body was stuffed inside a garbage can like this one, then dragged 2 blocks up the street and left in the parking lot of Greensburg-Salem Middle School. It wasn't long before police traced the garbage can back to the apartment and discovered the horrific crime scene.
Jennifer Lee Daugherty was born on November 8, 1979 in Mount Pleasant, Pennsylvania. She was mentally disabled and had the brain capacity of a child. She was known to trust everyone she met. She was very laid back, easygoing, made friends really quickly, and she loved to sing and dance. She was also independent, always going on the bus by herself and going to doctor's appointments from Mount Pleasant to Greensburg and everywhere else she needed to go. It was one of these doctor's appointments that Jennifer made a new group of friends. On the morning of February 10th, 2010, Jennifer told her mother and her stepfather she was going to a new friend's apartment to have a sleepover. She said she planned on staying over in Greensburg and then going to a doctor's appointment the day after and will return home. The same morning, Jennifer wrote a note to her mother on the back of an envelope with the friend's contact info and a message stating, "I hope that you have a good day at work, and I also love you very much. I will talk to you sometime later." Bobby Murphy, who was Jennifer's stepfather, dropped her off at a bus station that day. She kissed him on the cheek and said goodbye, and she then hopped on a bus shortly after and headed to her friend's house. Jennifer was as happy as always while she was boarding the bus, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Peggy Miller was waiting for Jennifer at her apartment in Greensburg at 428 North Pennsylvania Ave with other people who Jennifer thought of as her friends. Robert Masters, Ricky Smearns, Melvin Knight, Amber Meidinger, and Angela Marinucci were waiting for Jennifer to arrive at the apartment. Angela actually knew Jennifer for years, and the two girls constantly talked on the phone. As soon as Jennifer stepped foot into Peggy's apartment, things took a violent and horrifying turn. For the next 36 hours of her precious life, Jennifer was hit repeatedly with a towel rack, a vacuum cleaner hose, filled soda bottles, and crutches. She was forced to eat human waste, urine, and cooking oil on top of medications, spices that were also dumped on top of her head injuries, and nail polish. She was shaved bald, and her face was painted with nail polish. They went through her purse and stole her money, gift cards, and her cell phone. She was then taken to the living room where Marinucci poured a bottle of water over her head, and then Melvin and Ricky dumped oatmeal and more spices in a form of humiliation. She was also later raped by Melvin Knight.
Apartment where Jennifer Daugherty was tortured and murdered. Police say she spent most of her time in this living room, tied up with Christmas lights and garland. Now, look at what we found. On the floor, a swatch of carpet that was removed, likely blood spatter, being tested for DNA.
They all then had what they call family meetings, and these meetings were held in voting of killing Jennifer. Before this happened, though, according to Robert Masters, he helped Jennifer retrieve clothing she was stripped of and tossed out the window the first day she was beaten. Before she could put her clothes on and leave, Knight and Smearns came back to the apartment. Because of this, a family meeting was issued and all voted for Jennifer to die. On the 12th of February, Jennifer was forced to write a suicide note that was placed in the back pocket of her pants. She was then drugged with an unknown drug and stabbed multiple times, both in the heart and her lungs, by Melvin. She was still breathing despite being stabbed, and then Melvin shouted, "The bitch still ain't dead." That's when Ricky grabbed the knife from him, stabbed Jennifer in the chest and throat, and then slit her wrists. She did not die after this, so the men tied her with Christmas lights and wrapped them around her neck. Melvin on one side and Ricky on the other pulled the lights tight on both ends, and this is what killed Jennifer Daugherty. Her body was then stuffed into a garbage can and dumped like a piece of garbage in the parking lot of the Greensburg Salem Middle School. Jennifer was just 30 years old when she was brutally taken. All suspects were called immediately after Jennifer's body was found, and there was a possible motive in why all these people participated in this horrific crime. Amber met Melvin Knight at a homeless shelter where they both were staying in Washington State in January of 2010. They got together and for a month straight moved to several locations until deciding to settle down in Greensburg, Pennsylvania, where they both met Jennifer at a location named West Place, a center for people with special needs. Melvin met Ricky after previously meeting in jail. Ricky had major issues out of the group. Almost all of the men involved here either had a drug-addictive parent, were neglected, or went to a life of crime. But to me, reading about Ricky, he was on another level.
So what did you do?
I
Just her wrist? Rick, come on.
I swear.
Tell us the truth.
I did.
Did you stab her in the chest also?
No,
Rick?
I didn't.
Rick?
I didn't.
Do you
There's
understand
those people.
that you, at the very least, disposed of a dead body?
Yes. I praise
You
the
do.
Lord that
You knew full well what you were doing and what was in that garbage can, correct?
but it was also scary.
You
I
need to
can't
tell
believe
us.
I did it.
Ricky was born Ricky Van Edward, and he was doomed from the very beginning. He was born to a sex worker and a gang member who was moved in and out of various foster homes. He was treated for several mental illnesses, starting at the young age of 4 years old. He was taken by the Smyrns family and immediately given their last name. According to his lawyer, Ricky was abused by his father and his mother, and abused sexually by his father and his uncle. He went to at least 100 therapy sessions by the age of 10 and got into beer, cocaine, heroin, and marijuana by age 6. He was diagnosed at 8 years old with PTSD and was diagnosed with having at least 7 different personalities and 15 total psychotic issues. Back in 1997, he broke into a neighbor's home to steal knives, guitars, coins, cash, and bullets of a gun. The same year, he assaulted a woman in her basement. Ricky was on another level, as mentioned earlier. Why did no one, not even the Smyrns family or any of the foster case workers assigned to Ricky, ever examine him or take him seriously? These claims his lawyer made are severely horrific for one person to go through. Where was the help needed for a mentally ill person like Ricky if he was going through this? It was said that Marinucci planned to kill Jennifer days before they did. She claimed she heard Smyrns call Jennifer on the phone, telling her that he loved her and wanted to marry her. He had a love triangle going on, and he wanted to marry Jennifer Daugherty and not Marinucci. This was the possible motive given, which led to Jennifer's death. The start of the trials were on November 3rd, 2010, where the prosecution was seeking the death penalty for Smyrns, Knight, and Medinger, as they participated in the crime the most. On April 12, 2012, Knight pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and second-degree murder, kidnapping, and conspiracy to commit murder and kidnapping. On August 30th, 2012, he was sentenced to death, and he later appealed in September of 2014, which was delayed until March of 2019 when it was upheld. He tried again in November of 2020 and was swiftly rejected. On August 3rd, 2011, almost a year prior, Marinucci was given mandatory life with parole after being found guilty of first-degree murder in May of that year. She was only 17 years old when she helped kill Jennifer, so she could not be placed on death row. Her sentence was revoked due to 2 cases in the Supreme Court, one in 2012, Miller v. Alabama, and one in 2016, Montgomery v. Louisiana. The Supreme Court rulings caused the revoked sentence. However, on July 1, 2015, a jury decided to resentence her to the previous sentence, life without parole. On December 4, 2013, is when Amber Middinger was sentenced to 40 through 80 years in prison after pleading guilty for third-degree murder, kidnapping, and conspiracy. She filed a paperwork in November of 2019 to have the sentence terminated early for her to be released. No information could be found to confirm if the sentence was granted or not. However, she lied about her mental health issues and her mental state. She told the police she had mental health issues when no information could be found supporting it. She eventually admitted to her mental health being a lie. Peggy Miller was sentenced to 35 to 74 years in prison and serving her sentence. Ricky was sentenced to death on February 28, 2013. He tried to appeal that same month, but a judge upheld the sentence. His execution was delayed in July 2017, and it is not confirmed when Ricky will be executed for Jennifer's murder. Robert Masters pled guilty to third-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and conspiracy to commit kidnapping on December 19, 2013, just days before his birthday. Masters was sentenced to 30 to 70 years in prison. He was able to get a plea bargain and move to another jail with the other male suspects for protection. No public information was shared to what the plea bargain was. Robert Masters is in the State Correctional Institution Green, while Ricky Smyrns and Melvin Knight are in the State Correctional Institution of Phoenix. Peggy Miller and Amber Middinger are in the State Correctional Institution in Muncie, and Angela Marinucci is in the State Correctional Institution in Cambridge Springs. A conference meeting was held on April 23, 2012, where a legislation law was created by the name of Jennifer's Law and passed by the state senator Kim Ward. This law was proposed to make it illegal for someone to witness a violent crime and fail to report it to police. Many neighbors, including neighbors who share a building with Peggy Miller, heard body slamming and a woman screaming, and heard Marinucci state she was going to kill that bitch Jennifer. No one reported it to the police, and it could have saved Jennifer's life if it had been reported. Jennifer was a bright, fun-loving person who would have never hurt anyone. She was always searching for friends and to be happy. She cared for others the way she wanted to be cared for. People senselessly took her beautiful life, all because of jealousy and rage. She suffered for being a decent person and was taken so savagely and so soon. May Jennifer Lee Daugherty rest in peace.